Hi, this is Christine with Zeidman Development. Today I'd like to walk you through some of the things that are available for you to import into the Razor's Edge using Importacular and Salsa Engage and the activity type of fundraising one-time gifts. So on our screen here, you can see that I have already selected my Salsa Engage data source. And I have selected my activity type of fundraising one-time gifts. You can see that here at the top. And I've already selected my date range that's appropriate for the gifts that I would like to bring through for this session of processing. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. That's going to download the gifts that are within that date range that I selected. And we can take that information to import into Razor's Edge using the template that I've already built. So as that data has loaded, you can see now that we have our data source. There were 3 gifts that met my criteria, and I could either build a new template or work with an existing template. So today I'm going to show you a template that's already built and some of the options that are available. If you are opening with this for the first time, you would definitely need to build a new template. So I'm going to open my one-time donation template, and just because it's good practice, I'm going to add a control report to work with so that when I process this later, I can view all my results in my control report. Let's go ahead and open this template. So one of the things that you'll notice here is that I have mapped quite a few different things. Some of these are part of paid destinations. Some of them are part of the versions that are recommended for users with Salsa Engage. So if you're interested in some of these additional areas, that would be something you'd need to discuss with our team in order for you to try that out. So on the first tab here, this is constituent information. You can see that I have mapped the constituent. With anything in Importacular, the constituent is always the first thing to work with. You can work with either individual constituents, organization constituents, or a combined file. And we do have more information on that in some of our other videos. So let's open what we have here for our constituent mapping. And you can see I have named this mapping just simply constituent. Every mapping has to have a name. It's best to use names that will work for you over the long term. So in this source field name, this is where you can link to the fields that are living directly in Salsa Engage. So you can see under first name in Razor's Edge, I've linked to the Salsa Engage field of supporter first name. So you can see here in the drop down, these are all of the different fields that are available to import directly from Salsa Engage. If we scroll further down, you can also see that I've got my supporter last name. I've also added a supporter middle name, as well as I'm using that supporter ID out of Salsa Engage as an alias. We'll see a bit more about that further in my template. I've added primary addressee and salutation formulas here. And I've also added a suffix and a title. One other thing to note is that you can see these red and green buttons on the very far right. Those are our field settings. Anytime you see that green, that means that there are some settings there that are helping adjust that field. So if you're looking for some more information about what those field settings can do, we do have that available in other documentation. Similar to those red and green fields on the field, red and green settings on the fields, we have red and green settings here. So these are area settings. So these settings work with all of the data that was mapped on this mapping. So the red and green here, which is all green, maps to what we had on that constituent record. Here, the green matches to the constituent code. So let's open that. You can see that I have mapped a constituent code of friend for everyone that is coming in from Salsa Engage. And I've used a default value because nothing in the API, so the source fields coming directly from Salsa Engage, nothing there matched what I wanted to put as a constituent code. If you have a field in Salsa Engage that tells you what that constituent code should be, you may want to work with that field as a source field name, but there was nothing there for me that worked. Additionally, I mentioned earlier that I had that Salsa ID as an alias lookup. You can see here that I've mapped a Salsa ID as a constituent alias. So when we click on that, you can see that I've named that alias type Salsa ID, and I've used that supporter ID as the key name, which is the alias data, so that we can use that as a way to look people up using their Salsa ID. Additionally, I have worked with the email opt-out date to create a consent record. So if we click here, you can see that I've worked with our opt-out. So we've got that opt-out here. I've worked with the response. I've used opt-out, and I've got some formats here so that if they're opted in, we don't put them on the opt-out. But if they are not opted in, they are opted out. So I've got all of that filled out so we can track who didn't want to get emails from our organization. The last row that you can see here is slightly grayed out, and it's an additional constituent. This is because you can have dedication information. So in Raiser's Edge, that would usually translate to a tribute. If you want to work with the tribute destination, that is an option, and this is created because I was working with that tribute destination. So this constituent record was actually created over on the tribute tab. So you can see here I have a tribute right here, as well as a tribute record. So the tribute record looks just like that constituent mapping, except that it's working with the tribute information. So I've mapped that to the dedication text so that I can link out and create a tribute constituent that is an honor memorial. And then I've created a tribute record that has an activity date. Go ahead and add a description of that dedication text. We've got a dedication type as a tribute type. So that's how I can work with all of those API fields in order to create that tribute record. Just a second, I'll show you how you link that tribute record to a gift. But before we do that, let's go ahead and finish moving through our tabs and take a look at that address tab that comes after our constituent tab. So on our address tab, you can see here that we have an address. So this has all been linked for our supporter, and we've added the different fields that we have available from the address line 1, address line 2, city, country. If you wanted to do a date from, we could use maybe that activity date. If you want to add an info source, we could add Salsa, just so you know where it came from. You can add the state, you can add the zip, you have to add an address type. Once you've had that mapped, you can again work with those area settings so that you can avoid adding duplicate addresses. You can determine what happens when there's relationships sharing addresses. So you have lots of different options available to you there. We've also mapped an email address. So you can see here, again, I've used that opt-out information so that we could mark a do not contact on email addresses that have expressly told us they don't want email. So I've done a field setting here so that if they have a date, if they don't have a date, it's blank. If they do have a date, it's marked as checked, so that way it'll show up as do not contact. And we're using the phone number field here to show that supporter email address. And then the phone type is just going to be from our Raiser's Edge options. So I've selected email, but you may have a different name for that. Go ahead and save that mapping. So once you've got your constituent mapped and you've mapped that contact information, then the next thing to work with on these one-time donations would be to create the donation. So using that gift tab. So here on our gift tab, you can see I've got several different mappings. The first is I've mapped the gift. I've also added a couple of attributes, and I've linked to that tribute. So you may or may not have a tribute available, but everyone does have the option to work with the gift and the attributes, as well as the notepads, the split gifts, the benefits, and the other areas are related to different paid destinations. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one-time gift mapping here. This is actually from this gift mapping. So on the one-time gift mapping, you'll notice that these are fields that you see on Raiser's Edge gift. Most of the time, the common fields should be sufficient, but you could work with the other fields here if you needed to. So let's stay on the common fields for right now. So you can add the acknowledgement status. You can add the amount. So I've worked with that one-time amount. You can add an appeal. So if it's in your source field, you can add it using that dropdown, or you can click here to add a default value. You can see I've used a default value for my campaign. I've used my activity date. I've linked the designation. I've used that as a way to do a data transformation here on my field settings so that I can make those codes from the designation table in Salsa Engage map to the actual fund names that I have in Razor's Edge. So if your designation table doesn't match Razor's Edge exactly, that's not a problem. You can always do a data transformation to make that work. You can also link all of these different fields. So we've got our activity date as our post date. We've got our gift set to not posted. We have our gifts all defaulting to a pay method of cash. You could change that if your gifts coming out of Salsa Engage are primarily credit card, you can change it to that. Or if there's a field that you want to work with that you can determine from that, you also have that as an option. So maybe that pay processor name would give you a more accurate information that's always available to you. One thing you can tell is that I have used that designation field in more than one place. You're not limited as to how many times you can use any of the source field names. So you can use them wherever they're appropriate. They don't have to be just used once. So once you have that gift mapped, you can add some of our other areas. So I've added an attribute to show that Salsa gift ID because I wanted to be able to track those ID numbers within Razor's Edge. So I've used a default value of that Salsa gift ID. I've used the activity date as the date, and I've used the donation ID as the description. I've also, just in case, I used the dedication. I made an attribute that I could track with that. If you're not working with the tribute destination, this is an easy way that you could link that dedication information into Razor's Edge and have it stored on the gift. So you could work with the gift attributes. I chose to put the text in the comments and the dedication type. So that would normally be in honor of or in memory of. I chose to put that in the description, but that would be entirely up to you and your organization. Finally, I did map that tribute gift link. So what that does is it allows me to link this gift to the tribute. So again, this is part of that paid destination for tribute gifts. But if you have a significant number of tribute gifts coming through Salsa Engage and you want Importacular to link it with the tribute so that the tribute is on the gift, the tribute lives on the constituent record for the individual being honored or remembered, you can use that tribute destination in order to make that happen. So here, that's how I've set that up. I've linked this exactly to those maps, those field mappings that I showed you initially when I referred to that tribute record. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead and save and close our template. So once you have walked through your template and created it, you don't have to open it and create it every time. So once you have that template set up, and it's ready to go and you've processed it, then you would on this screen go ahead and continue. And that will allow you to review your data matched against data that's already set up in Razor's Edge. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video to learn more about how to use the Salsa Engage activity type of fundraising one-time gifts. If you're looking for more information, I strongly encourage you to watch our tutorials on how to build a mapping template and mapping a constituent record, matching address records and address information, and mapping gifts. If you're interested in working with the tribute destination, we do have a video available on that as well. I hope you found this helpful, and thank you so much and have a great day.